This is Kathy from Gadget Stop 321, and in today's video, I'm going to take a look at my little collection of Pilot 78G fountain pens. Now, I've got a couple of the original 78Gs, and then I've got 4 of the updated 78G Plus. Updated might be a little bit of an exaggeration. It's just the newer version. I'm going to do a writing sample first, and then I'll talk about some of the similarities and differences and the value of this particular fountain pen. Now, I'm going to be writing on Tomoe River paper in one of my old Hobonichi journals. And I've got these pens inked up with the Roshizuku Tsukiyo. They've all been dipped except for the demonstrator, and I've had it inked up for quite a while, so I'm going to move it to the end. It's writing a little bit different because the ink is starting to, it's more saturated. It's a little drier since it's been in the pen for so long. But these are the new, these two are the old. I've got an extra fine, 2 fines, a medium, and then I've got another medium in the old version, and a broad. So I'm going to move this fine to the end and move these over to the side. I am a huge fan of just the Pilot nibs, both the steel nibs and the 14 karat gold nibs like you find in the Custom 74. I don't normally acquire multiples of the same pen, but I just wanted to have, a selection of each size. So I'm going to start with the 78G Plus with an extra fine. I use this when I'm testing different inks to see how the inks perform in fine nibs. And with this particular ink, it performs really well. People who don't like fine nibs would probably find this unpleasant, but it's actually not too bad for this fine of a nib. It does feel like you're writing with a needle, but if you need a really fine nib, that's a good option. And next I have the 78G Plus with a fine nib. Now this is the newest pen that I have in my collection. I just got it. It just came in the mail yesterday, and I want you to listen. When uncapping it, it's kind of squeaky. I've noticed that when the pens are new, you get that annoying squeakiness, but after using it a little bit, that goes away. This is significantly smoother than the extra fine. It's a little bit, just the tiniest bit more ink going down on the page, but very pleasant for a fine nib. Next I have a 78G Plus with a medium nib, and see, when you're uncapping, it's much quieter because, excuse me, I've been using this pen for a while now. And this is even smoother than the fine nib. And maybe just a touch more ink going down on the page, not significantly more. But it's not an overly wet writer. Next, I'm going to start writing with the older version, the 78Gs. This is also a medium nib. Now, I'm not noticing that much of a difference. It is just the slight, well, I don't know. In my experience, this nib has been a little bit drier, but I don't know. It's since I'm comparing them with the same ink, maybe that has just been a function of the ink I was using. They look pretty similar. All right. And next is the Pilot 78G, the older version, with a broad nib. Now this is not typically what you think of as a broad nib. It doesn't have any tipping, and it looks similar to the cursive medium that I had on my Prera and that I have on my Metropolitan. But I don't know. I think this nib, it's marked as a broad, might be just a hair more crisp than those cursive mediums. Had a little bit of a hard start there, and I've noticed that with this pen. And it may just be because of the crispness of this, it may just be the angle, because I notice it with that first downstroke. And this feels wider than the cursive medium on my Metropolitan and Prera. I think this is just a hair wider, and the line that it puts down does appear to be more crisp. I prefer the cursive medium. It is more of a stub nib, I believe. And finally, I'm going to go back to the 78G Plus, the demonstrator that has Sukiyo in it, that's been in this pen for a while. You can see it's more saturated. It's a fine nib. You can see how much darker the ink is. And you can see that this ink has been in here for several weeks, and I've been using it off and on. You can see how the ink works up through the feed and into the nib section there, but I haven't had any problems with leaking or burping or anything like that. These are just solid, dependable writers. Now, one of the differences in the 78G and the G Plus is the colors that they come in. You can only get the demonstrator in the new model, and you can only get the teal in the older model. They both have a red pen, but the older red pen is this more subdued red. The newer model has a brighter red pen. I like this subdued color. The 78G Pluses, the new ones, come in these boxes, and the only thing in it is the pen. The pen has a converter in it. No ink cartridges come with it. No ink. And these directions. Now, it looks like it's marketed as a school pen. That looks like the direction that they're going. And the pamphlet that comes with it, I don't know if this is Japanese or Chinese. I tend to think it's Chinese. I'm not seeing any English on it. I tend to think it's Chinese because on the customer support or the information emails and the website, it looks like it's China. So I'm not sure where these are made, because The old ones came in just a sleeve, like a glued sleeve. Again, had a converter in it, no ink, but the directions for it are all in English, and it does say made in Japan. So I don't know if the newer ones are made in China or made in Japan. The differences are mostly cosmetic, other than the newer ones have a Con 40 converter, which I like for these fine nibs. I'm perfectly content with the Con 40. The older ones, I think this is a Con 20. I took the converter out of this one. These have been dipped. The squeeze converter, I believe that's a Con 20. I don't like that you can't see your ink level with this, but for dipping in a bottle of ink and inking it up real quick, just squeezing it a few times, that's pretty convenient. So it has its good points and bad points. Other than the difference in the converter, the differences are mainly aesthetic. On the cap band, the new one says Pilot Japan, which makes me tend to think maybe it is made in Japan. I don't know. And the old ones just said Japan. The clips, let's see, the stamping on the clips are slightly different, and the stamping on the nibs, the new ones, the stamping is laser engraved, where the old ones are actually stamped. I prefer this stamping. I like that. It looks a little more crisp, and I found that laser engraving tends to really hold on to the ink, but Sukiyo, yeah, tends to really stick to these gold-plated nibs anyway. Other than that, the parts of the pen are interchangeable, and the nib section is interchangeable with my Pilot Metropolitan. It's the same nib section. The downside is the Metropolitan is silver trim and the 78Gs are gold trim, so it doesn't look that great if you switch the two, but you can. It's the same size and style of nib that is used on my Prera, the Metropolitan, the Pilot Plumix, so they're all interchangeable. And I wanted to show, I've got all these inked up, but cleaning these pens is really super easy. You don't have to worry about damaging fins. The feed doesn't have fins, so you can just grab the nib. If it's in there pretty tightly, you can give it a twist, and it's just friction fit. So that's the same setup for the 78Gs and the Metropolitan. So getting in there and really getting it cleaned out, that's nice. As far as value goes, like I said, I don't normally get multiples of the same pen, but I was really wanting to try a Pilot Medium. I've got a custom 74 with a fine nib, but before I got invested in a medium nib, I kind of wanted to try one out. So even though I had a fine nib 78G, I went ahead and got a medium. I liked the way it wrote, so I decided, well, I want to try the broad and try the different sizes. I wanted to try an extra fine and see what that was all about. So these pens, when they were sold in the United States, I've gone back and watched some older videos. The people making videos talked about these pens going for around $10. And I would say value-wise, this is about a $10 pen, but they're not sold in the United States anymore. So most of the places you find them, they go from anywhere from $18 to $22. And if you consider that includes it being shipped, that includes shipping, it being shipped overseas, I'm willing to pay $20 for this because I enjoy the Pilot writing experience that much. It may not be worth $20 for you. The Metropolitan can also be gotten for $20, and it's a metal pen. It's a little more substantial. You might look at this little lightweight plastic pen and say, "Oh, that's just not worth $20." And that's a personal, that's an opinion thing. When I look at the Prera, and in the United States, it's a $50 or more pen. The 78G for $20, excuse me, is a pretty good value for me. Preras, you can get them like on eBay and whatnot for significantly less than that. But even like I've seen them for $30, a $20 78G, when you're using basically the same nib, that's a pretty good value if you like the look of this pen. Well, that's my little Pilot collection. This is my collection of Pilot pens, plus I also have a Pilot Petite one. That would be my entire collection at this point. So if you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel.